So you want to be productive. You're tired of doom scrolling on your phone and constantly putting off your to-do list. But you're also convinced that you're just too lazy and unmotivated to make a change. But what if I told you that it wasn't a lack of motivation, but your brain's own hardwiring that was keeping you from being productive? In today's video, I'm going to be teaching you exactly how to outsmart your own biology and harness the self-discipline, healthy habits, and internal motivation you need to master productivity. First, let's talk about the core of unproductivity: procrastination. Procrastination is that sneaky little habit of delaying the things you should be doing for things that make us feel instantly better in the moment. But you're not alone in your procrastination. Some studies have found that almost all students procrastinate every once in a while, and at least 75% of students make procrastination a daily habit. So how is procrastination such a common problem that we just can't seem to fix? Procrastination usually happens for one of two reasons. First, we've set ourselves some extreme goal with no micro step to complete it, or we lack some serious intrinsic motivation. Let's first start out with reason number one. When we set a huge goal, like losing 20 pounds before summer, it can be so motivating at first. But large goals can also very quickly become extremely intimidating if we don't break them down into much smaller, actionable steps. Without micro steps, similar to what James Clear talked about in Atomic Habits, we lack a clear roadmap to follow when reaching our bigger goals, which makes it way too easy to procrastinate when our initial motivation wears off and our end goal just becomes too daunting and unrealistic. Micro steps are essential because they act as mini milestones, and after we complete each micro step, we feel much more confident in our ability to reach our bigger goal, which then reinforces our commitment to that goal. Let's take our 20-pound weight loss goal, for example. Instead of solely fixating on waking up tomorrow and losing 20 pounds, set a micro step to exercise for 10 minutes every single day for 5 days a week. And you're probably thinking that 10 minutes of exercise is a waste of time and you're never going to lose weight just exercising for 10 minutes a day. But starting out small makes it so much more likely that you're going to achieve that goal consistently. And it's something realistic that we can stick to for more than just a few weeks before becoming burnt out, and builds up our motivation and discipline to stay productive and reach our final goal. Another more practical example of this would be studying. Say you have an exam and you have 6 topics to cover before that exam. Don't focus on doing all 6 at once because you're going to become overwhelmed and you're not going to want to study at all. Instead, set a micro step of just completing 1 hour of studying on one topic. This hour is much more manageable for us to approach and complete, which in turn reduces our likelihood of wanting to procrastinate. In essence, by breaking down this big, daunting goal into more bite-sized, manageable chunks, we set ourselves up for a succession of successes. But the power of small habits isn't just practical advice, it's actually backed by behavioral psychology. Locke's goal setting theory, for example, tells us that the more specific and challenging a goal is, the more likely we are to achieve it. Locke says that having crystal clear goals plus immediate feedback is the magic combination for staying motivated and being productive. And that is exactly why our micro steps work so well in keeping us productive. They give us a clear goal and are manageable enough to keep us working consistently in order to reach our overall bigger goal. But completing micro steps is only a tiny piece of a much bigger puzzle. You will never become productive if you can't outsmart your brain's natural hardwiring. So we've been able to pinpoint that procrastination keeps us from being productive. So what is at the root of this procrastination? It actually boils down to a tug of war between two areas of your brain: the limbic system and the prefrontal cortex. The limbic system is basically just a set of systems that deals with automatic behavioral and emotional responses in the brain, and its main aim is to fix our negative moods when faced with uncomfortable situations. The prefrontal cortex, however, is not automatic and operates much more slowly to be a more logical and precise decision maker. It is also a newer part of the brain, which makes it much weaker than the older, more instinct-driven limbic system, which means in the heat of the moment, the limbic system often overpowers our rational planner and makes us run away from tasks that are negatively affecting our mood. If a certain task that you're doing triggers anxiety, the limbic system might steer you towards doing a different task that soothes that anxiety right away, like watching a YouTube video or scrolling on social media, which actually makes us put off that task that was causing us anxiety in the first place. So procrastination doesn't actually come from laziness, it is literally what our brain is hardwired to do. So if this is part of our hardwiring, how do we fix it? We have 2 ways. 1 is creating a habit loop, and 2 is finding intrinsic motivation. Let's start out with our habit loops. Habit loops typically follow a similar pattern: trigger, behavior, and reward. This system is actually built for our survival, so So you see food, you eat food, and your body sends you a dopamine hit as a reward. And this loop, once set, runs automatically in our brain to save our precious mental energy. But this loop is also the same thing that drives anxiety and procrastination. For example, the big looming project or task that you have that causes you anxiety is the trigger. Because we feel anxious, the behavior we automatically adopt is to avoid that task, thanks to our limbic system's need to make us feel better. And the reward is the relief you feel of not doing that task, which further continues that procrastination cycle. So how do we break this loop? Well, it's easy. Let's take our weight loss example from before. So say we want to lose 20 pounds before summer, but we have a serious habit of late night snacking. First, we need to identify our trigger. Are we bored? Are we tired? Did we spend too long at the laptop doing really boring work that we didn't want to do, and now we are craving a dopamine hit? Once we know our trigger, we can understand more why we're adopting that behavior of snacking and why we are craving certain rewards. This mindfulness will allow you to swap out that negative behavior for a more positive behavior. For example, if it's late night boredom that's causing your snacking, you could schedule in a walk or a relaxing activity for that time in order to disrupt your habit loop. By changing just one step of the loop, you not only break the cycle of snacking, but also make that goal of losing weight so much easier in the long run. Now we know how to change our habit loops, let's move on to intrinsic motivation, the second and most important way of changing the hardwiring in your brain. When we first start something or we have a goal that we want to achieve, we're usually propelled forward by the motivation coming from the thought of achieving that final goal. But these goals often take much longer to reach than we anticipated, which can lead to us losing motivation over time, getting bored, and eventually getting sidetracked from these goals altogether. And this is where intrinsic motivation comes in. Intrinsic motivation is basically being motivated to achieve a certain goal for internal reasons, and involves finding your own why to keep pushing even when our goal seems really far away. Intrinsic motivation to lose weight might look like finding an activity that you really enjoy doing and just focusing on getting better at it instead of fixating on the number on the scale. When we find these intrinsic forms of motivation, our actions automatically become aligned with our values and our passions. And this alignment creates a sustainable drive that doesn't rely on external rewards when it comes to trying to reach our goal. And because our actions are now automatically aligned with our values and our passions, our automatic responses are no longer negatively affecting our goals, but pushing us closer towards them in a way that keeps us productive. Being intrinsically motivated also helps you bypass triggers of procrastination like boredom, because it shifts your focus from short-term rewards to the overall satisfaction of achieving personal growth and fulfillment. So ask yourself, what small step can I take right now that I can stick to and that will also help me reach my bigger goal? Remember, being productive is a learned habit. Begin with bite-sized steps, maintain those steps, and you will see a massive difference in your productivity and your goal achievement. If any of these tips resonated with you or you find them helpful, please let me know in the comments. Keep taking those small steps towards your big results, and hopefully I will catch you guys in the next one.